It's another episode of Katung's meeting. I want to welcome you all. I hope you guys had a really great weekend. I would say that I had one. I had a really good weekend. Hi, Rude Boy. Hi, iBlend. I'm hoping that you guys are ready because today we have a very special guest, a man who does not mince words. He's a change agent. That's why we have our topic today as change, the lies, the truths, and the agents. He's an agent of change. I actually see him in the comment section. Let me actually bring him right on so we do not waste time. Hello, sir. How are you?
Good evening, brother.
Good,
How are
good.
you doing?
I'm very well. It's great to have you finally. It's an honor to be able to bring you on here. For those who do not know, my guest today is Mr. Dele Faro. How do you say your name? Faro Timi.
Baru Timi.
Yes, Faro Timi. He's a lawyer, a seasoned political activist, an author and a member of Citizens Rally Against Oppression. I took interest in you as soon as I saw a video that went viral when you were talking about your book, Do Not Die in Their War. Somebody sent it to me because most of what I do on my page is I like to think that I'm a budding activist. I'm educating myself to become conscious. I'm unlearning many of the things that I was brought up on because I've come to realize over time that most of the things that we were told while we were growing up have actually been lies fabricated to control us. Borders have been created around us, and it's been difficult for us to come out of these boxes. But the truths are coming out. People are beginning to speak. Agents of change are beginning to go against the tide. And that is why somebody sent me that video of you. And then I took interest and I started watching your videos. I started seeing what you're talking about. I said, I have to have you on. That's why I was excited when I got the response that you would speak to me. Many of the people that follow have actually said, why don't you get him on? I said, I am waiting. I think I'm on a wait list because the man is in high demand. Well, thank you very much. Let's jump straight into it. When I opened your book, I was going through one of the things that I kept on coming back to was what Taiwo Akinlami wrote. So I'm going to quote and say, there comes a time in life of a nation when it must have its own soul-searching conversations. I'm putting a bookmark right there on soul-searching conversations. And then it goes on to say, examining its peculiarities, another bookmark, as an independent entity with a duty to define, another bookmark, and defend its identity and its place among other countries in the world. Everything you wrote in your book kept on bringing me back there because when Taiwo Akinlami wrote that, that's what he got from the book. And for some reason, that kept on resonating with me. I said, we're going to center it around here. So I have a few questions that will lead us to these bookmarks that I have picked up. And the first question might seem basic, but let me hear how it comes across to you. The first question is, do we know who we are as a nation?
Unfortunately, we don't. Unfortunately, we don't. But that could be both an opportunity and a disadvantage. It's a function of how we approach I prefer to say challenge rather than problem.
Yes.
Nigeria is essentially a very young country. You can't call it a nation just yet. It's not a nation. But it is when we might have found the grace to come out of the mess into which we have more or less bogged ourselves down in. When we manage to come out of that, a nation would have to have been built before we might come out of it. Nations are built in the cauldron of our common afflictions, our shared histories, our shared losses, our victories. That is what binds a people together. The people you call Yorubas today were not always Yorubas. And some people would bother to go into history and begin to tell you that some are Omolofin or they are this or they are that. And that is still one of the most homogeneous of the several secessionist homelands that people claim. So you find very quickly that it is in the commonality of our histories that nationhood develops. Fortunately or unfortunately for Nigeria, we are an artificial. A call was coming in. We
That's
are
okay.
an artificial entity, and that artificial entity has not managed to evolve a nationhood simply because we've been blighted by rulers in place of leaders. And what has now happened is that when you look at Nigeria, the future seems bleak because we don't seem capable of articulating who we are. We have allowed other people to define who we are for us. Those who define us have sought to define us by our divisions. So instead of defining us by our common interests, they have defined us by their own deliberate divisions so that we are never able to speak to them with one voice. And so, yes, we don't know who we are yet, but that is because for too long, too many good people have kept quiet. They've allowed their tongues to be frozen and clipped to their palate. They've not managed to open their mouths. There have been several reasons. There is always a reason not to say the truth. There is always one. So in that silence, we have lost our voices and we have refused to become one. But it is up to all of us to speak.
The issue of the silence and speaking is something that I also want us to talk about today, but I'm going to get there. But you were able to actually cover something out, because the next question I was going to ask you is, if we are as divided as we are, can we actually claim to have a Nigerian culture? I'm not talking about the Yoruba culture, the Igbo culture, the Hausa culture, and the celebrating of the differences. One of the things that I know that can work for us, if we decide, is to celebrate our differences and then recognize our differences, but celebrate how more alike we are. So you were actually on the path of answering that question, but let me still throw it out there because there might be something. There might be something else. So can we actually claim at this point to say we have a national culture, which I think is the nationalism, I think is the nationality you're talking about, right?
Yeah. As a people,
yes,
the average Nigerian, be that Nigerian, Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, Kurukuru, Katav, at their level of existence, they are united. They want the same things. What has happened is that those who have aggregated our citizenship rights have ensured that they have focused us on what divides us, so that in continuing to focus on the divisions, we have ignored the commonality of our afflictions. No Fulani man does not want a good life for his children. No Kataf would refuse good life for his children. But the dialogue of the ventriloquists that we have carried on when our rulers sell these divisions in order to maintain their own chokehold on the mass of the people, what you find is that at the upper echelon of Nigerian society, there is very little by way of division. When you come to the lower level of Nigerian societies, you also find that the poor and the middle class generally get along together. But when the elite are having their power struggles, because you must understand that the Nigerian ruling class is not unlike a mafia clan. Each one controls specific territories. Each one controls the territory using whatever works for them. In the northern part of Nigeria, religion is a very good opium. So you find that the man you have refused to educate, against whom you have weaponized both poverty and ignorance, it is easier to tell him who his enemies are. It is easier to define the parameters of his engagement with the other man whom you have helped to emphasize does not look like him. So you find very quickly that the Nigerian problem is not really to be situated in the lower class. It is a contestation of power amongst thieves who have deliberately made sure that the people are never united. Because if the people were to ever be united, you and I will not be having these discussions. They will not have the balls to come to the National Assembly and be admitting to the kind of things to which they admit to. The level of contempt that the Nigerian ruling class actually has for the generality of the Nigerian people is reflective of the fact that our nation, our country, is structured in a way that has assured that the rich and powerful must be kept above the law, and the poor and weak, who is truly in need of protection and deserving of protection, are kept underfoot. The judicial system is designed like that, and it is easy to see when they have political issues, they need adjudicated quickly. You find the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal, all the courts, they work with so much speed. You'll be amazed that we have cases that runs for 10 years through the appellate system. So you find very quickly that there is no justice for the poor. And you find very quickly that the poor is concentrated on his survivor so that he is never able to discern the fact that the person he has been taught to hate is actually his true brothers and sisters. Whether we come to this realization will be a function of how men of goodwill across the length and breadth of Nigeria opens their mouth to declare that they are not complicit in the madness that has been unleashed against Nigerians. If you are a Fulani man and you are not part of the jihadist redentist movement that is overtaking Nigeria, you have a duty to speak. If you are a Yoruba man and you are not part of the stupid "I want to do a republic" thing, you have to open your mouth and speak. If you are an Igbo man, yes, you have every right to feel aggrieved in Nigeria. You've been brutally marginalized. But that is the story of every other Nigerian. Unfortunately, you have been the excuse that they have used in building the structure of injustice in Nigeria. But it does not change the fact that over 98% of Nigerians are united by the commonality of our afflictions. If we are stupid enough to allow the 1% to define the discussion we should be having when we should be seeking a way out of the mess we are in, then that's our own problem. But we have a duty. Nigeria is an open, plain paper. The opportunity exists to write a new history. Etch our own names. Let history not forget us as well. Or we can simply sit down and play the victims.
So let me come in by saying here, you have made the point clearly here that as an division, hunger, and a struggle for survival has actually been used as weapons, yeah, to keep us. Yeah. So and it is just a small percentage that are aware of this. And I know for certain that without education, without unlearning the things that we know and trying to relearn, and that relearn because like you individuals that are speaking out, how do we get to the point where the common man, the young professional, and everybody who is united in the commonality of this problem you talk about, what will it take? Because I do not know if only speaking out will do it. We have seen people speak out in the past and have been killed. So besides hunger as a dividing factor, there is also fear. Besides fear, there is also the fear of being ostracized by those who worship the guys who throw them the crumbs. How do we make a deliberate action that spreads like a virus to get us into this cocoon of agreement?
Okay. You more than almost anyone else who has interviewed me has suggested to me that you've read Do Not Die in Their War.
Yes.
There is a chapter in Do Not Die in Their War. I titled it The Day I Died. That chapter perhaps answers the question you have just asked. See, here is the thing, my brother. It is up to each man to define the parameters of his engagement. Each generation, I think it was Franz Fanon or one of those socialist scallywags, said something along the line that it is for each generation to identify its cause and then proceed to either pursue it and actualize it or betray it. The reality is that I have come to the knowledge of the fact of my mortality. I already know that whether I live another 52 years or live just another 52 minutes, I will die one day. But I have also found, by observing Fela particularly, I've also found that it is actually very easy to achieve immortality in a nation where people are not given to telling the truth. So the issue of whether somebody will kill you for telling the truth or ostracize you, bros, that's the person's problem now. The person is simply going to end up on the wrong side of history. Because the beauty of the situation is that, you see, you can never, ever walk with the truth and be on the wrong side of God. However you worship God, it doesn't matter. Whether you are a Muslim, a Christian, a Buddhist, however you recognize the sovereignty of God, the reality is that you cannot walk with the truth and in good conscience. Even if you make mistakes, people will see that your errors were genuine. But when a man, ab initio, elects to silence himself because of a received fear, he failed his creator already. I remember one of the verses I love remembering in the Bible. It says, "For I have not given you the spirit of fear, but of a sound mind, power, and love." The moment you embrace the spirit of fear, you lose your sound mind, you lose your power, you lose your love. My brother, when you have time, reread The Day I Died, and you would understand why. It is impossible for me to be silenced by the fear of any man, and I recommend it to each and every one of those who come across this. You will live only once, and the stuff of legends are made by what you did in your lifetime.
I took my time. I was able to go through it because I'm in school at the same time. I'm doing a whole lot, so I took my time. I was able to pick out the things that I picked out. You know, because I won't lie that I read everything, but I'm somewhere.
Don't worry, it's fine. It's fine. But he answers the question.
Yeah,
The question.
And why I picked these questions is because these are the questions that many people ask, but they do not necessarily hear it enough. They do not necessarily know it, you know. So I will not claim to know it all, but it was just checking many boxes in my head, and I could not wait for today. So let me come from this angle now.
Okay.
I am not for secession, but what do you say to those who say the boundaries that have been created for us were not created by us? We were separated for the benefit of somebody else. So why should we stick to those boundaries? Those boundaries have limited us from even achieving the possibilities that lay bare before us. What do you say to that?
I need to unpack a lot because I have deliberately, and this is me telling you the truth, I have deliberately sought to provoke the secessionists. And there is a method to my madness. The secessionist is actually, in truth, a passionate patriot. But if you check my Twitter handle, I said, patriot of an unborn nation.
Unborn nation, yes.
Nigeria is not birthed yet. Is almost every chance of ever birthing the Nigerian nation is being killed, particularly in the last 5 years. It's been a long time coming, mind you, for the last 54 years, if the truth be told, but it has accelerated badly in the last 5 years under the rule of this affliction that we are under right now. Now, here is the thing. I understand the pains of the secessionists, and I understand how they would conclude that, look, there is nothing here for us. After all, we've been here 54 years. We fought a civil war to right these wrongs, and it's never been righted. And they will be completely correct. 54 years after a Buri, we are still here. The Nigerian problem is an Igbo problem, and it is the problem of citizenship. If the Igbo man has citizenship, every other Nigerian has citizenship. The Igbo man has never requested anything of Nigerians that he is not willing to give or concede to every other person. The Igbo man's problem is the problem of the Southern Kataf man. The problem of the Igbo man is the problem of the Yoruba man. The problem of the Igbo man is the problem of the marginalized Fulani man who is not a member of the power cabal. The problem of the Igbo man is the problem of all Nigerians, is a failure of citizenship. We have the incongruity of a nation. Heresy. We have the incongruity of a state that has deliberately denied citizenship to its subjects. So you've got two levels, the rulers and the ruled. We're in a feudalized democracy. Why I now take on the secessionists and seek to unite them behind a push for a united, just, equitable Nigeria, ruled by law, restructured to meet the aspiration of its people. Why I keep pressing them for that instead of secession is because I have evolved. Human beings are meant to evolve in their thinking. When you find superior argument and logic, you are meant to concede a position that is indefensible in logic or in fact. When the secessionists in the Southeast and in the West begin to demand their Biafran Republic and their Oduwak Republic, what they conveniently forget is that they're actually reacting. They are reacting to another hegemony that has inflicted its capacities on Nigeria in the last 54 years. That hegemony drove the civil war. That hegemony has structured Nigeria from the 4 regions that it started out with in 1964, the last time we, the people, wrote a constitution. By 1966, a state was stolen, ab initio. That gang of state stealers, thieves, were led by certain hegemonies. And today, Nigeria has been made in the image of that hegemony. Nigeria has a feudalized democracy. Every part of Nigeria, be it Abia State, Lagos State, Osun State, are ruled by emirs in place of governors. Wow. Emirs do not respond to the people. They do not have an obligation to the people. Look at Edo State. Look at Edo State. Oshiomhole knew the thieves 4 years ago. Today, there is a new thief in town. And the people in reality are left with very little choice because we are in a democracy devoid of choice. This is a feudalized democracy. You can't reform it. It's not reformable. So the issue that we all need to wrap our minds around quickly is that when you begin to respond to this hegemony in secessionist terms, which I have already considered, are found in genuine grievances. What then happens is that you lose the synergy you could have created if you walk across channels with other marginalized peoples who are trapped in the north, in the west, in the east, and in the south. All Nigerians across tribal and religious lines are marginalized by the 1%. So when you now fall for their trick, and instead of highlighting the commonality of the pains that you are feeling so that other people can join the chorus, and you begin to talk about, I want Oduwak Republic or I want Biafra. Question I want to ask is this: how many are we going to break Nigeria into? Artificial boundary, Abi? Yeah. Nations and states have been found based on artificial boundaries. People walk around their problems. They found their nations. Some people sat down, they didn't have 2 heads. They traveled to the moon. They are planning Mars. Somebody hollowed out a piece of wood. He made a canoe. He crossed the Atlantic, came to enslave us. And we are being stupid again because instead of uniting to face the common threats that we can all see, we are busy dividing ourselves yet again. The last time they came around, they lent us guns. They sold us guns, took human beings, gave us mirrors, gave us beads, umbrellas, gin for human beings. You know what they're giving us now? Rolls Royce, private jets. Yeah.
Distractions.
Rolexes. They
Distractions.
bring their trash and they take our gold.
Hmm.
And we are helping them by refusing to identify the commonalities of our afflictions. We are having the argument our rulers want us to be having instead of facing our problems.
So let me now. The fact has been stated by you because I've listened, I've read, and there's something that you always say, which I agree with generally. You said something we all have in common is our pain, the hunger and the suffering. However, these pains and suffering and all these things have been isolated. We've been isolated not to necessarily see our general problem because I don't think we know enough about each other. We're not communicating enough with each other. If by some form of, I don't know, maybe enough people suddenly wake up and start speaking, and then the policeman that goes to the same market as me, we're communicating, this thing is not favoring you, it's not favoring me, why are we fighting? If we actually succeed in getting maybe 50% on board, yes, but many people say the only way to fight these people is via a revolution. And I know the word revolution always tickles or stirs up something. I heard you say that the word we should be using, the word things that are happening in Nigeria are implosions, not necessarily revolutions.
Yeah,
But why
that's what we are.
revolution so? Why is it such a scary thing? Is revolution always about blood?
When you have a state like Nigeria that is designed essentially for the preservation of power, which is why the police considers the people that should be citizens, the police considers them enemies. The soldiers are also trained to see them as enemies. So you find very quickly that inside that kind of cauldron where the states reason the turn, the totality of the reason for the existence of the Nigerian state is the preservation of the ruling class in power. So when you have that kind of situation, what you find very quickly is that the state is always reacting violently to demands by the citizens. So when the average citizen comes out onto the road to demand anything for that matter, however peaceful the citizens might be, you find the policemen ready with their tear gas, bullets, dogs, horses. You find the DSS, you find the soldiers. It's almost as if they are going to war. But this is not without reason. It's because there is a class disconnect. The soldier and the policeman that has been sent onto the street to put down the lawful demonstration and protest of the citizens, that soldier is disconnected from the fact that his own children attend the same bad schools. He drives on the same bad roads. The hospitals have failed for him as much as they have failed for me. But it doesn't make that connection. But it is not his fault. It is the fault of the Nigerian left, those who have claimed to be political activists. Have we ever taken the argument to the street? Have we engaged them? Have we allowed them to see the commonalities of our affliction? I use that word again, see? So it's a function of how ready are we? We can be rabble-rousing and making noise, shout revolution. You won't bring a revolution. A revolution is not something that happens because you wish it. It doesn't happen just because you wished it. You are going to have to work for it. It is what comes about as a function of deliberate, systemic actions. It doesn't happen simply because the other person thought that, who do you want to revolt against? The state is the sole monopolizer of violence. And the state is already structured to ensure the preservation of the powers. So every time you are raising your head without having adequately educated the people to connect them to the reason and the need for what you are doing, and what you are doing, what comes after the order you are seeking to change. Have you articulated an alternative behind which you seek to unite the people? If you haven't done that, all you are doing is that you are asking for chaos. You are not asking, you said something, and it's important we dealt with it. You said what was that word again? Yeah. The difference between that what we've been having are implosions. Yes, we've been having implosions because each time that all these sporadic violence, protests spilling out from grievances have erupted, they've merely been expressions of hunger. What plan do you have on the table? Look at Zimbabwe. They got rid of Mugabe and they got themselves a crocodile. Mugabe is number 2. They look at Sudan. They got rid of Bashar. But it's a stalemate. So every time you desire a revolution, which is what that's the only thing that can save Nigeria. Let's be clear about that. We're already in the grip of a most violent insurgency, spearheaded by Fulani jihadists and irredentists. If you had the Biafran secessionists into that mix, and then you had the Oduwak secessionists into that mix, and then you had the fact that the Nigerian state is actually a rent payer oil driller in the South, you find very quickly that Nigeria is a state at war with itself. So if we are truly desirous of saving Nigeria, we have to quickly wrap our brains around the fact that we must identify the commonalities of our issues and unite behind them so that we can jointly, as a people, face the threat that is coming our way. Because yes, there is a major threat coming our way. And when we sit in the peace and security of, and relative to, of Lagos and those city centers that we've crowded ourselves into, it is easy not to realize that Nigeria is actually at war. The president's home state, people can't sleep with both eyes closed. That wasn't the case 5 years ago. Zamfara, the Northeast, the Northwest, gone. Gone. Every day people are beating drums of war. Kaduna, Southern Kaduna is burning. The Benue Trough is a killing field. And we are not, we keep telling ourselves we are not at war. We're already at war. What we need to do is unite.
What do you say? What do you say to discussions that have been coming up? I've been hearing them about these insurgencies being deliberate because of the benefits that governments get from organizations like AFRICOM. Because if you look at the timeline of when AFRICOM was established and when the Boko Haram insurgency came, AFRICOM gives millions of dollars to governments. The moment you can prove that there's insurgency and then you're using it to try to fight insurgents, but they just collect money. But instead, we see that these insurgents are very, very organized. They have weapons. What do you say to that? Because I'm from Southern Kaduna, and the kind of things that we have seen.
Oh,
yes,
my condolences, brother.
I've lost friends. I'm pained, but I realize that look, I'm not sure that violence is going to be the solution, which is something we're going to talk about. Yeah, but what do you say to people from there who even we woke up this morning and our governor was on channels again saying that the problem is that we're just hungry people that are looking for our attention, that we are the ones that are always inciting the violence, creating the violence so that we can be settled for brown envelopes. What do you say to those kind of things when people say, look, if the person protecting me is not protecting me and calling me this, what do I do? They are killing children. Diplomacy is out of the...
You know, the tragedy of the Southern Kaduna man should be sufficient to awaken Nigerians to the idiocy of secessionist distractions. So what republic is the Southern Kaduna man supposed to be joining? The Arewa Republic? Where he has his story. I recall, I'll go to what you're saying, but I remember a story I read written by Reverend Kuka, Bishop Kuka now.
Yeah, I know.
And he said something along the line of, if you are eating and you're eating too quickly, they will ask you, the Fulani is coming. And he gave the historical basis. He gave the historical basis for that assertion. And the historical basis was that when they were younger, his grandmother would ask that question in order to explain that nobody is coming to enslave you or to take the food away from you. You can relax to eat your food. This is the story of the northern minorities. People in the South assume that the North is one. So your voices are drowned out. Because historically, when it suited people from Southern Kaduna who are benefiting from the erection of the unjust Nigerian state, when the Igbo man could not be promoted beyond a particular rank, the Southern Kaduna man enjoyed the advantage of being a northerner. So what has happened today is that injustice has come full circle. The old conquests that were uncompleted, the agenda of the Fulani redentists have been dusted up in the state of lawlessness that we have found ourselves in. And then you will find a man like Rufai who will sit down and he'll say something as inhuman as what he has been saying concerning what has been happening in Southern Kaduna. I am not privy to security reports, but I'm a Nigerian. And I am familiar with the age-long problems in Southern Kaduna. And to have a man speak as insensitively and act as insensitively as El Rufai has been acting in that part, it tells you why we are in the mess that we are in. If a man was elected to protect a people, even if he couldn't do his duty, as he has eminently failed, the least he could do is not to rub salt into injuries. It is the height of insensitivity of the highest order. But again, what's new? Is El Rufai? I am not too sure he's too famous for thinking before opening his mouth, so I can't pretend to be surprised by what he has said. All I will say is this. The Southern Kaduna man, unfortunately, is the recipient today. If other Nigerians find the grace to keep quiet and not cry out on behalf of the Southern Kaduna man, he's coming. He will come round eventually. He will go to everyone. He will go to everyone.
You're right. There's a saying that goes in, from where I'm from that when rain falls, it doesn't choose one roof to hit. It hits everything under its parameters.
Eventually.
You know, so eventually, you that is on higher ground that thinks the water just flows down to the other people, one day erosion will happen. It will come around.
Inevitably. See, the injustice, you help anyone at any point in time. When you see evil, and either because you benefit or because you're scared, you keep quiet. What happens is that you become complicit in the evil that you have tolerated. And you lose the legitimacy to a very large extent to find help when the same injustice is brought your way. There is no injustice that is being meted out against any part of Nigeria today that hadn't been trialed out somewhere else with the acquiescence or complicity of those who have kept quiet. He always comes round. He comes round eventually. So we all have to find our voices.
To the issue of what I was raising regarding governments, because many of the government officials have been in power forever. Their children have dual citizenship. And God forbid if Nigeria goes up on its belly, they are sorted because they've invested money that the illegal funds outside. They have property here. Their families are situated here. So what do we say to the complicity that they are being accused of in the rise of insurgency, especially because they benefit from international organizations that continue to pump in millions of dollars to fight insurgency?
See, if I hired a man to do a job and he fails consistently at doing the job, but I kept him on the job, after a point, I must admit that I am actually responsible for the failures, because it was obvious that the person was incapable of doing the job I had hired them to do. 54 years ago, a band of bandits grabbed power. And when they grabbed power, the first name they called themselves, Revolutionary Council. So when they did that, they now claimed that they wanted to cleanse Nigeria of all these ills. They listed them. The second band came a few months later and kicked them out. And then we had our civil war. No victor, no vanquished. What happened from that day till today is that we began the institutionalization of a ruling class. So you find that it is the same people that you have seen in power since 1966. They are recycling themselves, but the same problems that they claim they came to fix 54 years ago have merely multiplied. If you hear Abacha's coup address, December 31st, 1983, if you hear his address, each and every one of the problems he enumerated in that time, you've got to multiply it 100-fold before you can take us to where we are today. And yet, we've had men who have been on the scene since 1960s. Still, Buhari, 1960, he was there in 1966 in the Ikeja cantonment. There are several accounts, and yet he's still the one in power today. He is fighting corruption, but impunity has overtaken Nigeria. So the issue of them trading on insurgency, we sit down sometime and we tell ourselves, oh, the system has failed. The system has not failed. The system is doing exactly what it was designed to do. Look, if you want to know, think about it this way. You're a businessman to some level. Imagine what has been your experience each time you have to come across the Nigerian state in the course of your business. Pain. Because the Nigerian state has become the affliction. It is the Nigerian state itself that imposes the punishment to ensure that you stay in a pool of poverty. The state has deliberately made sure that for you to create wealth is a problem because it suits the state for you to be poor. If you are poor and you are constantly pursuing what you eat, you won't have time to ask for an account of how they are running government. So all these insecurity issues, let's be clear, some people are making money from it. They don't care. You find a convergence of different levels of madness in the Nigerian space. It's a convergence. The person who wants to make money from selling inferior arms, the person who wants to make money from looting arms that were meant for soldiers to be sold to insurgents, you find them in Nigeria. The person who wants to make money from inflating the defense contract, you find them in Nigeria. The person who wants to make money by discrediting the war against insurgency, you'll find him as well. So what you find very quickly is that there are several layers of failures that have converged in the Nigerian space. So it's almost as if normalcy has been suspended in our space. And all the things that should not happen are exactly what are happening. And the ones that should happen, unfortunately, have run away from us. We've embraced and normalized insanity. That's what has happened to us.
I was just going to come there. Is it possible that Nigeria, we are in the numb state we are because we have become desensitive to all of these things, such that we are just now like, it's the way it is? Because if you check it, the average Nigerian now, when you say, see what's happening, they'll say, what you will never see before. That's what everybody just says. What you will never see before. I beg not be me key Jesus. Or this and that and the next. So you find that there is no true outrage. The outrage is just amongst a few. And when you are even trying to raise your voice, they'll say, they go just kill you. Going back to what we're saying, but is it possible that there's an issue of desensitizing that has happened to the point where the Nigerian brain has just become numb and say, whatever?
I wrote an essay sometime early this year or late last year, I'm not sure now. I titled it Open the Window. And one of the anecdotes I shared, which is based on real life, and you will be able to relate to this soon. When you are anywhere around strong odors, after a while, your nose becomes acculturated to the stench. And you simply stop smelling the bad odor. Now, if you are also using perfumes, after a while, you, the wearer, will not smell it anymore. The stronger the perfume is, the less likely that you will smell it. Now, if you are not a cultured man who is measured, you keep bathing yourself with more and more perfume simply because you want to smell the perfume. But the
Yes.
reality is that your olfactory senses have adjusted to the scent and you can no longer smell it. You might smell like you might smell gutturally to the next man, but you won't smell it anymore because your nose have become used to it. Our issue is that we have lived with insanity for so long that we have learned to keep adjusting. It's like somebody call it I think it's the frog metaphor, where you put a bunch of frogs in water. If you had placed them in hot water, they would have probably jumped out immediately. But if you put them in cold water and then you turn the heat up under the stove, under the pot, you'll find that they'll keep adjusting until they will die. The problem with us is that we've kept adjusting. We've kept adjusting. The system has deliberately weaponized ignorance. And once a man is ignorant in his brain, his poverty is assured. So when you now have a situation where people are used to constantly adjusting because they just want to live until the next day, that's why you have all the churches, you have all the mosques. They are focused, the religious leaders, religious rulers are also playing their part. So they must believe, the people must believe in miracles instead of demanding accountability. The pastor will pray for the man he knows to be raping the society. The imam will bless him, but nobody is demanding an account of him because the church and the mosque have equally become complicit in the evil. If the number of churches and mosques we have in Nigeria is reflective of the kind of morals we have, we'll be a better country than we are. So, brother, what you see before you is simply a situation where a people have simply been captured. We have wrongly couched our struggle. We couched it variously. I've heard people call Nigerian problem a pro-democracy struggle. It's a liberation struggle. It's not a pro-democracy struggle. We've been enslaved.
Let me throw this in. This conversation will not be fully rounded if I do not speak about the Nigerians who have left the Nigerian situation, gone out to sea, and then there's a shock value as to, I was reading something the other day where a man visited his son in America for the first time.
The man was there, people are suffering.
Yes! The son took him on tour. The man kept quiet. The father... Then the son said, "Daddy, what is wrong?" And he said, "What is wrong?" He said, "The problem is not even that our people are even suffering. They don't
know
how hard." You know, because he could not believe that there was the possibility of such normalcy. There was the possibility of accountability. There was the possibility of order. There was the possibility of cause and effect. You understand? In equal proportion. Not to say these societies do not have their own loopholes and their own consistencies. However, what is the role of the Nigerian in diaspora? We are responsible for 26 billion naira in Nigerian to Nigeria every year, to the point that there's even a what do you call it? It just was it last month. There's a diaspora day that the president came out to speak on diaspora day, and he had not spoken about on COVID-19. Hadn't spoken on what's going on in Southern Kaduna. Hadn't spoken on everything, which brings to the point that money is always a leveler. So he had to give props to those guys who are responsible for 26 billion naira in his economy every day. What is the role of the person in diaspora, the diaspora community, in helping Nigeria? Because I think that many of our change agents have come here and they are realizing that, we have to do something, we have to do something. Do you think a deliberate movement or deliberate effort? Because I know that this thing is contagious. Once somebody believes it and takes it seriously, it is contagious, it will spread. I don't know if it's happening in Nigeria like that, but what is the role, let me just put it down, what is the role of the diaspora community in what can happen in the Nigerian space?
Yeah, I usually say that those who are sane have fled Nigeria. The Nigerian diaspora is the largest collection of sane Nigerians that are left anywhere in the world. They had enough sense to know that they should run away from the madness. Those of us that they left behind were the insane ones. the same ones have left, but they have a duty to us whom they left behind. Because here is the thing. I have not come across a single Nigerian anywhere in the world who would not come back home to Nigeria if home was the kind of place anyone comes to. Sheung Kuti, I won't tire of saying this. He said something I watched on TV the other day. He says nobody migrates from Nigeria anymore. People are escaping.
He said the same thing to me.
Yeah, he might
Yes.
have said that as a joke, but it's actually the truth. Nobody is migrating out of Nigeria. People are escaping. Escape is crossing the Mediterranean after crossing the Sahara. That's escape.
Hmm.
And when you see that the average Nigerian youth who has been college educated, a professional, his chief ambition is to get out of Nigeria, either Canada. Some people are going to Australia, New Zealand now because they are voting with their feet. They are not convinced that Nigeria has anything for them. So those who have left, you must first of all understand that they are not tourists. They did not leave because the weather condition in Nigeria is bad and they don't like the heat. People have left because they escaped. Now, having escaped, I see the Nigerian diaspora as a remnant. They are a remnant. They have the duty higher than anyone else's. Because we are stuck here, we're trying to survive. We can do a lot of things without thinking first and processing it rightly. Nigeria is structured to bring out the worst in you, make you just think about survival all the time. So it's very possible that we might be making errors in the things we do here in Nigeria. We can be excused for making those errors. What do we say about them? Because here is the problem with the Nigerian diaspora. The Nigerian in the diaspora does not really settle down to live where he is. He's here in Nigeria. He knows more about Nigerian news than those of us who are here in Nigeria. The bulk of the secessionists are in the diaspora because they know what we have here is not normal. It's not safe. But what are they doing with the knowledge they have? How are they helping us? Look at what is happening in southern Kaduna. If people understand the commonality of our afflictions, every Odua Republican who is busy making noise in the diaspora, every Biafran in the diaspora making noise, should be able to see the commonality of the affliction of each one of their ethnic nationalities and the people of southern Kaduna, and then come out. If you are in Holland, what is stopping you from protesting at the Nigerian embassy in Holland on behalf of the people of southern Kaduna? If you are in Spain, what is stopping you? You don't have Nigerian killer and ghost to shoot you. If you are in the UK, what is stopping you? But because you are too focused on tribal things, secessionist arguments, you cannot even see that the front line is in Kaduna. That's the front line. The front line is in Maiduguri. The front line is in Chibok. The front line is in Dapchi. But it's a war that is going to come to everyone eventually. And the more you divide yourselves, the easier you become to conquer. So those who are in the diaspora should calm down. Take the time to look at our problems. There can be no secession talks except it be post-war.
Yes.
The secessionist plays into the hand of the Fulani jihadist who is looking to break Nigeria anyways. So when people make the error of abusing the rights we don't have, we sit down here in Nigeria and we talk, we're risking our lives. It's a deliberate, calculated decision. Because sometimes, look at what Yele did last year. If Yele hadn't done what he did, the like of me would still be sleeping. And so would a lot of other people. But because of his own refusal to normalize insanity, some of us woke up. Those of you who are in the diaspora, your capacity to protest, to speak our minds, are amplified by the societies in which you live. Where we live, speaking the truth has become an act of courage because you easily get killed for less. So
Okay.
for me, really, please.
Sadly, Instagram is going to give us just 5 more minutes. I want to speak briefly on your 59-page draft constitution.
Yeah.
Yes. So your 59-page draft constitution, if given a chance to actually apply what is in that 59 draft constitution, because you Nigeria, you say we can take it back to what it should be without violence. Yes?
That's my belief. Yeah.
Yes, and it's and that means it has to transition from, because right now we don't have a system. It has to. Do you think it's going to be a slow transition, or it has to be a radical, disruptive transition? And how will your 59-page draft constitution? I mean, I wish we had more time. How would that play into the role of getting Nigeria at least to a point where we can start to rebuild? Because I don't see it as a solution.
Let me try and answer that quickly.
Mm.
The absence of an alternative plan or vision is what separates an implosion from a revolution.
Mm.
There is a 59-page draft constitution that takes its root from the 1963 Constitution of Nigeria. That was the last Nigerian constitution. It had 4 regions. What we have done with this draft constitution is to develop that, taking into cognizance the recommendation of the Willings Commission on the Right of the Minorities. I think that was in 1956 or 57. We took the report of the Abacha Conference, the Obasanjo Conference, and the Jonathan Conference. So what we did is not particularly original. What we did was to build on top of what had been in existence, which was the 1963 Constitution, which had 4 regions with powers properly devolved to the federating regions. In this one, we have 6 regions. Power is devolved to the federating regions. It's only in Nigeria you have the incongruity of a federal state that is creating federating units. It doesn't make sense. Federating units come together and have a federation. In Nigeria, somebody hijacked the federation of 4 regions, and 54 years later, boom, we have 36 states, 774 local governments. The cost of governance is all that preoccupies government. The law does not rule in Nigeria because of the system that we run. So what we have brought merely unbundles the government, clearly delineates the 6 regions, clearly delineates the functions of the region, and gives power back to the region with a less strong central government. So what we've done is there's nothing original to it. We merely evolved the constitution as it would naturally have evolved if the military jackboots had not marched on our streets in 1966.
Well, sadly, I have 1 minute and 12 seconds to you.
I've
not dealt with half of what I want to talk to you about. So I believe that we have to do this again, because I mean, I want to be, I'm learning. There are big shoes to fill, but you have sort of become a mentor for me, because I now go every day to see what you're talking about, because I'm learning, and I want thought to be inspired in me, so that what I cannot change, I will also be able to speak, so that people can pick up on this, so I will reach out again and see if we can create there is a bigger forum with more time, because the more people hear about this, the more people are getting sensitized, the more people are waking up. Thank you very much again. Thank you for what you are doing. I am elated. Thank you very much. Have a good one, sir.
Thanks for having me.
All right, sir.
Lovely night. Bye-bye.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for watching me and Mr. Daly. That was awesome. We have just 10 seconds left. This is Katung's meeting, and I will be back again tomorrow. You have a good one.